In this episode, I'm going to walk you through an upper body strength and power session, pretty much how I train myself and what I use with my clients and athletes. Now, this is going to be fantastic for anyone who wants to improve striking power or just build those general physical qualities to support your combat sport. So guys, we're going to break it up into 4 parts. 4 parts are going to be velocity, primary, secondary, and resilience. We're always going to start with velocity first. When we're fresh, I want to get the highest output there. So we're going to be moving external objects as fast as possible. And we're also going to be using our body weight to accept, overcome, and redirect force at high velocities. With the velocity block, we're going to break it up into 2 parts. The first part, we're going to be focusing on upper body push exercises, moving at high velocities, and then we're going to do the same thing with upper body pulling. The first exercise we're working on is a Smith machine barbell bench throw. Now, just an important note here, it's easy to get caught up on social media looking at, flashy exercises with people trying to replicate the demands of the sport in the weight room. Specificity has a point, but the main purpose here is to ensure that if we want big transfer, we need to exceed the demands of the task that we're trying to get better at. So with the Smith machine bench throw, it's one of my favorite exercises for working on upper body power because you're accelerating an object as fast as possible. Okay, as you can see, it's quite aggressive, and the rep scheme that I'm using there is anywhere between 6 to 8 reps as hard and as fast as possible. You want to note that you don't want the weight too heavy. If it's too heavy, you're not going to be able to accelerate the barbell as fast as you need in order to get those adaptations that we want. So the superset with the Smith machine bench throw is a lateral push-up plyo. As you can see, my hand's on the plate here, and what I'm doing here is when I go down, I'm going to have a bigger stretch on one side. It's going to offset my weight a little bit, and I'm going to be moving in the frontal plane. So just an important note, our upper body is not like our lower body. We don't have Achilles tendons in our wrists. So the purpose of this is to build upper body resilience for our upper half to deal with accepting loads at high velocity and also creating impact stiffness as well. So when you are striking, that last point of contact, when the hand meets the target, the body has to stiffen upon impact. And this is a fantastic way to do that. Even though that we're yielding, even though when I'm doing this and I'm yielding and landing here, I still have to make impact with the ground at high velocities to control my body weight moving down into the eccentric phase. Okay, so the third part of the velocity block for the upper body push, we're gonna be now throwing a med ball into the wall. So I'm using a med ball shot put variation. Now, with rotational power, it always starts from the ground up. We're just trying to sequence and get some kinetic chain sequencing from the lower half to the upper half. And we're going to be rotating dynamically in a transverse plane as we throw this ball into the wall. So it's going to look like this. The way that I'm going to use it for today is I'm going to step back and then redirect that energy into the wall. So I'm going to be here. I'm going to be in a split stance. I'm going to have my arm basically like I'm about to throw a shot put. So I actually want to create a bit of a stretch shortening cycle where I am using momentum, rotating into the back leg and then redirecting it into the wall. It's going to look like this. So main points of performance. When you are doing this exercise, to get more rotation and length, you want to think about pulling your opposite shoulder back. You want to think about turning in towards your lead stance leg so that you can get more thoracic rotation into the actual shot put. This one's always a bit scary. You feel like if you miss the bar, you're just going to axe yourself. So I'm always a bit cautious with this one. So I'm back into the push-ups now. I want maximum intent here. I'm trying to go as hard and as high as I can as possible. Naturally an orthodox fighter, I normally have my left leg forward, so it's easier for me to throw the ball into the wall. I'd recommend starting with the opposite side first. So if you're orthodox, start with a southpaw stance, and you're gonna look like a spastic like I am when you do this. I definitely don't rotate as good as I do on the side that I prefer, but it's important that you start with the weaker side first so you can kind of fill in those gaps. So the second phase of the velocity sequence, we're going to be working on upper body pulling. First exercise is a drop catch pull up. We're going to be using a pronated grip. So this is going to expose the upper half, the lats, the grip to a bit more higher velocities. So I'm going to come up and I'm just dropping, pulling myself up high and just dropping into it. It almost looks like a kipping pull up in CrossFit. It's kind of similar because you're using a lot of momentum, but what I'm trying to do is pull myself up as high as possible and then drop and then recatch a bar again. Now we're working on a horizontal pull. Now this band is about 1 inch thick. Obviously, if you go too thick, it kind of defeats the purpose because you won't get that full range of motion that we want when we're working on this pulling exercise. So I'm going to loop it around a squat rack. I'm going to grab a band in each hand. I'm going to walk back, get a decent amount of tension. I'm going to soften the knees, sit back into the hips, and I'm going to think about pulling my arms back as fast as possible. So I'm just going to sit back here. So it's quite dynamic. There's not a lot of force here. We're just trying to move fast. We're trying to express our ability to move really fast with lighter resistance. So we're now moving into the primary strength block. We have weighted dips, superset with rope climbs, and then we're going to be working into a loaded toe touch to work on spinal flexion. Now I'm only working up to a top set of 3 reps at a 9 RPE. So we're using RPE as a gauge today, and for me, that's probably not going to be too heavy today as I'm a bit under the weather. So we're just going to warm up with body weight first before we start adding load. Now, I've dislocated my elbow in freestyle wrestling. As you can see, I can't really straighten my arm, but stay tuned for that elbow program that we'll be releasing on the 1st of October. So a little tip, when you are doing anything weighted and you see where the little carabiner opens, make sure you point it away from your body. I've had a horrible experience where that little clip got stuck on something. For men out there, you wouldn't like it. Freaking kills. Okay, so I'm just, I've got a 16 kilo kettlebell on here. I'm just warming up now. In my warm up sets, I don't like to max out. I'm just working to a top set of 3. So I'll probably only do 1 to 2 reps. And if it feels fairly light, I'm gonna keep going until it feels heavy for a single. Now you're probably wondering why rope climbs. I love rope climbs. If you think about it, right, you're actually getting an exposure to single arm pulling through a concentric and eccentric fashion as well when you're going up and down the rope. And due to the neutral grip and the texture of the rope, it's going to stress the fingers and hands differently to a traditional pull-up. And I think that if you can control your own body weight moving up and down a rope, you're going to be fairly strong with upper body pulling strength, which is going to be fantastic, especially in grappling scrambles where you have to pull a lot to control and move your opponent. Even in boxing, if you get in a clinch and you want to spin your opponent, you need to have at least a decent amount of upper body pulling strength to be able to move and steer your opponent. If you have medial tendinopathy or golfer's elbow, for simplified terms, this exercise will definitely light you up. It's going to be extremely challenging on that part of the forearm. So if you are someone who's dealing with those issues, I recommend you check out the elbow program in the show notes below. Okay, so to initiate this exercise, I'm sitting on the ground. I'm gonna have one hand over the other. All I wanna do is I wanna think about pulling the rope down towards my face, and as I'm moving up the rope like this. So it's gonna look like this. Try to control on the way down. So as you can see, every set feels like a 9 RPE. just to mention that the tricep, or the third part of this actual primary strength sequence, is loaded flexion of the trunk. Now, I'm a shitty mover. I like to add in some spinal work, also direct trunk work as a filler in between my strength blocks. So I've just got a rope cable attachment here. Gonna bring that rope cable down towards the floor, and all I'm essentially doing here is performing a Jefferson curl. I'm trying to create a lot of flexion through my spine. You'll find that because the force is pulling you up, you then have to use a lot of your trunk, your abs, in order to create the flexion. This feels really nice on the midline. Also feels really good on the lower back, and just regaining some spinal flexion. The main point here, when you do this, you don't want to try and keep a flat lower back. You want to round your shoulders out. You want to try and tuck your pelvis under if you can. The goal here is to create as much flexion as possible. Now, you'll probably see how stiff my lower back is, where it's kind of flat. And it's something that I've been working on a lot, especially in grappling sports. And now, the hardest part is getting up. Okay. I like using kettlebells better than plates. I find them easier just to set up and get the load on there. I think there's a bit more juice in there. We'll probably go 40 kilos for a triple. It's a lot easier to just put them up on a bench so you don't have to squat down with the weights between your legs. Now, this is a little bit over 50% of my body weight. I'm 79 kilos, so it's nothing too impressive. It's just that I feel like my elbow couldn't tolerate any more than this, so we'll see how we go. So I'm going to try and do 2 ascents up and down. Because the rope is short, it's going to be a lot more challenging going up and down with shorter distance, because then you have to move through the eccentric phase a whole lot more. Okay, so now we're moving into a secondary block, which is going to have more of an emphasis on different movement patterns. So we're going to be using a vertical push, a horizontal pull, and then we're going to be taking the trunk through lateral flexion. So the exercise that I'm using for the slight hybrid of a vertical and horizontal push is a split stance landmine press. And no, I'm not trying to replicate the demands of a punch. I'm just trying to improve my ability to press in the vertical plane. So I love this variation. As you would have seen in the shoulder sequence, the reason why I like the freedom of the landmine is because the thorax can move in the transverse plane, and you can also get a good emphasis on the serratus working because you're pushing into the bar and up simultaneously. Okay, so we're going to be working to a 9 RPE on the landmine press, the row, the cheat row, and the Smith machine side bend. I want to chase a decent training stimulus here, so I'm going to push it as high as I can. So this is getting to a pretty decent weight for me. I'm going to hold this for around 6 to 8 reps per side. Main points here, I don't want to flare my rib cage. I want to keep a nice stacked position. Now, if you're sending it per side, it's pretty heavy. Rest 30 seconds between sides. Shake it out before you move straight into the next side. I definitely need the rest. Fucking hell. So the landmine press is going to be superset with a pendulé row. This is eventually going to look like a cheat row because I want to send it. I'm going to go as heavy as I can, and I'll probably use momentum to get the weight up. Now, in regards to my setup here, I've got 2 barbells set up. One's for the landmine, one's for the row. Now, if you don't have 2 barbells, just do a straight set on the landmine, and then obviously load it up when you've finished and move to the next exercise. Starting to get heavy now. This will probably be it for me. This is about 100 kilos. I'm gonna hold this for around 6 reps. And this will be probably a 9 RPE. So the third exercise to this tricep is a Smith machine side bend. Now, I love this exercise. We're training lateral flexion of a trunk. So we're going to be expanding the ribs laterally and then compressing the ribs. Now, this is fantastic for your obliques and anyone who's pretty stiff like I am. So all I'm going to do is just hold that hand by my side. I'm going to laterally flex as far as I can. And then coming back up and into the other side, laterally flexing over the other side. With this one, I want to chase a pump anywhere around 10 to 12 reps per side. So guys, you don't have to structure your training this way. It's just something I like to do. If I start, for example, with a horizontal push and a vertical pull in my A series in the primary sequence, I'd like to do something different in the secondary, just to give it a more well-balanced approach towards your training. To round out this upper body strength and power block, we're going to finish up with a resilience circuit. Now, these are common sites of the body that are exposed to repetitive forces in combat sports. I've picked 3 areas today. We're going to cover the neck, the elbows, and the grip. So the first exercise is weighted neck extensions. Now, I've got a harness here. I'm not too happy with this harness. I don't know what brand it is. It's called Demoose. I just got it off Amazon. I wouldn't recommend buying this one. It's not one of my favorites, that's for sure. Now all we're working on is loaded flexion and extension of the cervical spine. Now if you don't have a harness, I'd recommend getting one. Just don't get the one I got. They're only cheap, probably around $40 to $50 Australian. Okay, we finally got the neck harness on. So I'm going to be just resting my elbows on my thighs here. I want to keep a nice flat back, and I want the movement to come from my cervical spine where I'm moving through flexion and then extension. Now, the weight that I'm using here is 12 kilos. It's fairly light, but it's nice enough to chase a decent pump anywhere from 10 to 12 reps, or 10 to 15 reps, whatever floats your boat, just as long as you get a nice pump around your neck extensors. So the next exercise we're working on is a seated dumbbell Zottman curl. Now, I'm going to be taking the elbow through supination, flexion, pronation, and extension. So it's a fantastic exercise. It ticks all the boxes here. Now, all I'm going to do is sit on a bench, turn my thumbs away from the body. I'm then going to flex at the elbow, and then going to obviously internally rotate, bringing my palms to the floor, where I take the arm through pronation. I'm then going to repeat that process, turning the thumbs away, flexing at the elbow, and then turning the palms down towards the floor so I can get some internal rotation at the elbow joint. Now the rep scheme here, anywhere between 10 to 12 reps moving nice and slow, maybe with around a 2 to 3 second eccentric to chase a pump here. Last exercise, I'm going to be training the hands to grip at higher velocities. We're going to be using a drop catch just with a plate. I have a 10 kilo plate here. I don't have a 15, but if you've got something heavier, by all means, make this as challenging as possible. Main points here, when you catch the plate, don't ball your fingers up, okay? You want to keep your fingers long so you can get a good squeeze with all your fingers. So it's going to look like this. I'm just going to, goal here is to replace my hand and not let that plate drop down like this. We want to replace it really fast. And you want to be aggressive with the way that you're squeezing the plate and then swapping those hands around. Now, anywhere between 16 to 20 reps, you want to take it close to failure here. Just to rehash what we went through on the resilience circuit, we first started with the weighted neck extensions. We performed anywhere between 10 to 12 reps, chasing a nice pump in the neck extensors. We then moved into the seated dumbbell Zottman curl, where we're working on elbow flexion with supination and pronation at the elbow joint. We then again performed 10 to 12 reps on that exercise. And then finally we wrapped up with a drop catch where we're training the hands to grip at higher velocities. And we performed anywhere between 16 to 20 reps there. And that's a wrap, guys. I hope you got some value out of this. Again, this is how I structure upper body strength and power sessions. You don't have to do it this way. I've just had a lot of success running this system, and if it works, there's no need to change it. If you got any questions at all with what you've seen, feel free to drop a comment below or check out the links for coaching and programs. Hold on, this fucking thing is a piece of shit. My God, who the fuck did they make this thing for? God. Do not buy this brand. The Moose.